March 12th, 1928. 7 in the morning. William Mulholland drives out to inspect his dam. The dam keeper had called him. There was a new leak. Muddy water seeping through the western edge of the structure. Mulholland walks the dam for 2 hours. He examines the seepage. He examines the cracks. He looks at the 12 billion gallons of water sitting behind 185 feet of concrete. And then he gets back in his car and drives back to Los Angeles. He tells his deputy the dam is fine. He tells the dam keeper the leak is unremarkable. He tells nobody to drain the reservoir, nobody to lower the water level, nobody to evacuate the valley below. 17 hours later, the dam is gone. A wall of water 10 stories high moving at 18 miles per hour through a valley full of sleeping people. Over 400 dead before sunrise. Entire families gone. The dam keeper who made that morning phone call, his 6-year-old son, his girlfriend, all 3 swept away in the first minutes. William Mulholland was never charged with a single crime. He resigned, faded into obscurity, and died 6 years later, having never spent a day in a courtroom for what happened in that valley. This is not a story about a dam. It is a story about what happens when one man has so much power and so little accountability that 400 people have to die before anyone asks whether he should have been stopped. To understand why nobody stopped him, you have to understand who William Mulholland was in Los Angeles in 1928. He was not just an engineer. He was the reason the city existed at all. Los Angeles in the 1870s was a desert town of 1,600 people. No reliable water source. No future as a major city. No reason for the population explosion that was about to happen. Mulholland changed all of that. Born in Ireland in 1855, ran away from home as a teenager, spent years at sea before landing in Los Angeles in the 1870s with no formal education and no engineering credentials. He taught himself. Textbooks on engineering, geology, hydrology, mathematics, bought with the money he saved working as a ditch digger. By 1902, the city named him chief engineer and general manager of the Los Angeles Department of Water. A self-taught Irishman who had arrived with nothing now controlled the water supply of a growing American city. And then he built something that made him untouchable. The Los Angeles Aqueduct. 224 miles of infrastructure carrying water from the Owens Valley to Los Angeles. Completed in 1913. At the opening ceremony, Mulholland stood before a crowd of thousands and said 5 words that became part of the city's mythology. There it is. Take it. The aqueduct made Los Angeles possible, and it made Mulholland a god. By the 1920s, there was no more powerful, unelected figure in Southern California. No check on his decisions. No independent review of his engineering. No oversight body with the authority to tell him he was wrong. He had built too much. He had delivered too much. The city had decided that men who produce miracles do not need to be questioned. And that decision was about to cost 400 people their lives. By the early 1920s, Los Angeles was growing faster than the aqueduct could supply it. Mulholland needed storage. He selected a site in San Francisco Canyon, about 40 miles northwest of downtown Los Angeles, and he chose to build a concrete gravity dam. There was one problem: the geology. The rock on either side of the canyon was different. The western side sat on a formation of mica schist, a type of rock that expands when it gets wet. That absorbs water. That becomes unstable under pressure. Workers who had built the Los Angeles Aqueduct nearby a decade earlier had already complained about this exact rock formation. Under Mulholland's own supervision, he had seen it. He knew what mica schist did under sustained water pressure. A proper geologic study of the dam site would have caught this immediately. Mulholland did not commission one. He and a Stanford geology professor made a brief visit to the canyon before design began. That was it. No soil borings. No rock core samples. No subsurface examination of what was sitting beneath the foundation of a structure that would hold 12 billion gallons of water above a populated valley. Civil engineers had also been warning since 1911 about uplift pressure, the way water forces itself upward through the base of a dam and can destabilize the entire structure from below. After the Austin Dam in Pennsylvania failed in 1911 and killed 78 people, one prominent American civil engineer stated publicly that it was a crime to design a dam without accounting for uplift pressure. That warning had been in the engineering literature for over a decade when Mulholland designed Street Francis. He did not account for it, because he was not an engineer. He was a self-taught man who had built miraculous things and had never once been told he was wrong. The dam was completed in 1926. By late 1927, cracks had already appeared. Diagonal fractures running from the abutments toward the center of the dam. Mulholland inspected each one personally. Each time he declared them normal contraction cracks. Each time he sealed them with concrete and moved on. By early 1928, the reservoir had been filled to capacity for the first time. More cracks appeared. More seepage. The leaks doubled in volume during the first week of March. Damkeeper Tony Harnischfeger was alarmed enough to document what he was seeing. Muddy water. Not clear water. Muddy. Which meant the water was not simply passing through the dam. It was carrying material with it. It was dissolving the foundation from the inside. On the morning of March 12th, Harnischfeger called Mulholland. And Mulholland came, and looked, and left, and said it was fine. The valley below the Street Francis Dam is asleep by the time midnight approaches. Farm workers in their camps. Families in small houses built along the Santa Clara River. The power company employees at Powerhouse No. 2. 84 of them living in a workers' camp directly in the path of what is coming. A carpenter named Ace Hopewell rides his motorcycle past the dam at approximately 10 minutes before midnight. He sees nothing unusual. He hears nothing unusual. He keeps riding. At 2 minutes before midnight, the dam fails. Not gradually. Not with warning. Catastrophically. The center section goes first. 12 billion gallons of water released in seconds. A wall of water 10 stories high, moving at 18 miles per hour, carrying 1,000-ton blocks of concrete like pieces of driftwood. The largest single piece of the dam found after the collapse weighs 10,000 tons. It is discovered 1,500 feet from where the dam stood. The first community hit is Castaic. Witnesses describe it as swept clean as a pool table. Then the power company camp at Powerhouse No. 2. 84 people, most of them asleep, nearly all of them dead within minutes. A rancher named Chester Smith is woken by his barking dog. He hears trees snapping, utility poles breaking. He runs barefoot into the darkness, shouting to his family. The dam is broke. A man named Carrillo loads his family into his car and drives north. He stops to warn a neighbor. He turns around. His car with his family inside is already gone, swept into the water. He and one daughter survive. His wife, his other children, gone. The Ruiz family, 7 of them. A small cemetery sits in the hills above San Francisco Canyon today. 7 graves, all from the same family. All from the same night. The wall of water travels 54 miles from the dam to the Pacific Ocean. It takes 5.5 hours. Bodies are found at the ocean. Some are carried south along the coast toward the Mexican border. Some are never found at all. Many of the dead are migrant farm workers. Undocumented. Unmissed by any official count. The official death toll is eventually listed at 431. The real number is almost certainly higher. Nobody ever knew exactly how many people were in the valley that night. Because nobody had bothered to count them, William Mulholland is woken by a phone call before sunrise. His daughter answers first. She has to wake her father with the news. As he reaches for the phone, he repeats the same words over and over. "Please God, don't let people be killed. Please God, don't let people be killed." He already knows. He arrives at the former site of the dam 3 hours later. It is gone. The center section completely destroyed. A single section of concrete still standing. Witnesses describe it as a tombstone. That is what people begin calling it. The tombstone. Over 1,200 homes have been destroyed. Orchards ripped from the ground. Livestock dead by the thousands. Volunteers move through the debris with small white flags. Every time they find a body, they plant a flag. The valley fills with white flags. Makeshift morgues are set up in local dance halls. People crowd around them, searching for family members. The Red Cross serves coffee and sandwiches to survivors living in tent cities along the flood path. Men plow through debris 20 feet deep, looking for signs of life. What they find instead is white flags. More white flags. Everywhere white flags. The coroner's inquest into the Street Francis Dam disaster convenes within days. William Mulholland appears. He does something that surprises everyone in the room. He accepts full responsibility. "I am the one who is to blame," he says. "If there was an error in human judgment, I was the human." The room absorbs this, and then largely moves on. The inquest finds errors in engineering judgment. It clears Mulholland of criminal culpability. No charges are filed. Not for gross negligence. Not for the warnings he ignored. Not for the geology study he never commissioned. Not for the 14 months of cracks and seepage he personally inspected and personally dismissed. Not for the morning visit on March 12th, when a dam keeper showed him muddy water pouring through the western abutment, and he drove back to Los Angeles and declared it safe. Nothing. The city of Los Angeles paid settlements to the families of the dead. Whatever amounts the city decided were appropriate. No court determined the value of 400 lives. No jury heard the evidence. The institution that had built the dam and employed the man who built it simply wrote the checks it decided were fair. Mulholland resigned in March 1929, 1 year after the collapse. He lived 6 more years. He died in 1935. He is buried in Los Angeles. His name is on a famous winding road through the Hollywood Hills. Mulholland Drive. Still there today. Still attached to the name of the man who declared a failing dam safe on the morning 400 people died in their sleep. Tony Harnischfeger. The dam keeper who called Mulholland that morning. Who showed him the muddy water. Who was not convinced by the answer he received. His body was found downstream. His son Cody was 6 years old. His body was found downstream too. Their small cottage below the dam was the first thing the water took. The St. Francis Dam is one of the deadliest civil engineering disasters in American history. It is also one of the most forgotten. No Mulholland film. No national reckoning. No moment where the country stopped and asked how a man with no engineering degree and no meaningful oversight was allowed to build a dam above a populated valley using geology he already knew was unstable. What the Street Francis Dam reveals is not a story about one man's arrogance. It is a story about what institutions do with men who have produced miracles. They stop questioning them. They remove the checks. They decide that past success is proof of future competence. And they leave 400 people sleeping in a valley below a dam that the man at the top already knew was compromised. Every warning was documented. Every crack was inspected. Every report of muddy water was filed. The information existed. The system simply had no mechanism for acting on it when the man at the top said everything was fine. That is not an accident of 1928. It is a pattern, one that repeats every time an institution decides that accountability is something that applies to everyone except the people who built it. Which part of Los Angeles history should we uncover next? Drop it in the comments.